The views and opinions expressed in this episode are those of the guest and do not necessarily reflect the views of Well-Being with CJ Horrell. These perspectives are respectfully held and are shared for information and reflective purposes only. They're not intended as a substitute for professional care, nor should they be used in place of advice from your clinician, therapist, or health provider who understands the specific details of your personal situation. As for my own contributions, what I share reflects the most truthful viewpoint I can offer at the time of this recording. As the Holy Spirit continues to reveal deeper understanding, I reserve the freedom to revise, expand, or even contradict previous perspectives because growth is part of the journey.
Welcome to Well-Being with CJ Horrell. Candid conversations about life, health, and faith that encourage us to pursue our best selves. Here's CJ.
Years ago, I made one of the biggest mistakes of my life. I betrayed a close friend and walked away without a conversation. What followed was years of silence, reflection, and deep regret. But grace had the final word. In this powerful 3-part series, I sit down with the very friend I hurt, now one of my closest companions again. Together we share the raw, redemptive journey of reconciliation, the difficult conversations that reshaped our bond, and what it really takes to repair what's been broken. If you've ever longed for healing or wondered if true restoration is possible, this conversation is for you. Forgiveness is personal, reconciliation is mutual, and wisdom knows the difference. Next time on Well-Being with CJ Horrell, The Road Back.
Because in my mind, you'd gotten rid of the dross and you'd built a beautiful world and life for yourself. So there was no need for me. There was no room for me. There was no space for me.
Wow.
In that life.
Wow. I was living in my world with loss. Great loss.
Wow.
That's what my world was like, especially, like I said, as I grew in my understanding, as my eyes became more open to the truth, as the self stepped aside enough for me to really recall what actually happened. And then I transitioned into living with great loss. And now, part 2 of The Road Back. I want to get into forgiveness and reconnection. And you were saying something a few moments back, and I think this question would kind of revisit that. What made you open yourself to hearing me out after all those years? So you get this email from me. And it's an email, just seeking to connect, to talk. What made you be open to hearing me out after all those years?
Well, let's first address the formality of the email. Ladies and gentlemen,
you had to
that
call out,
email was...
a brother. You had to call out a brother in these hard times, D. You make a Matrini come out, Matrini. Calling out a brethren.
So the email was rather formal.
Okay.
Very, very formal. And so I reciprocated in kind, very, very formal, because again, I'm very guarded because I don't know if what I'm seeing is actually what I'm seeing. But I think because there was always a part of me that hoped, although it was probably the size of a mustard seed, because that was all I could muster. No pun intended. But that was all I could muster at the time, was that mustard seed hope for reconnection. So I think once you said you wanted to apologize, I thought, what harm is there in hearing? I think also that I had grown as well over the years. And I know that if I reached out to someone whom I had wronged, I would hope that they would at least allow me the platform and the forum to share my heart. And so I think there were traces and threads of the fabric of our friendship in days of yore, that sort of nudged me to give you an ear. But I honestly believe that the the very uncertain prayers that were very momentary, very fleeting, like I mentioned in the previous segment, of, you know, kind of saying almost a half prayer, but saying it with, well, I doubt very much that would happen, but I believe that God heard it nonetheless. And so when this opportunity came, when I got your email, it felt like he was saying, give him the space. And so I think that that's what made me, and I think another part of me wanted to hear, what could you say to me?
That
I mean, if we're being, well,
yeah,
I mean, if we're
yeah,
being real,
that's some real, yeah, that's some
right?
real stuff. Yeah.
Like, what could you possibly say to me?
And
You know?
that well within your right too. Like, okay, what okay, you want to talk. Go ahead.
Speak, speak.
I am waiting.
Yeah.
I am
Yes,
waiting to
right.
hear.
Uh-huh. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
So,
now I know the answer to this question because boy, and well, at least I know some of the answers, possible answers. Let me put it that way. I know some of the possible answers to this question because I lived it with you. You know, this whole
mm-hmm,
forgiveness and reconnection experience. What did
mm-hmm.
forgiveness mean to you in this context, and how did you come to extend it? I, I won't
Wow.
comment beyond here. I'll wait to hear what you say to the
Okay.
listeners.
One of the things for me, I felt that for I felt that forgiveness could happen because for me, forgiveness was a choice. All right. So for me, it meant choosing to accept what you were saying, choosing to hear your heart, choosing to hear the unspoken through the spoken of what you were saying to me, and choosing to accept it for what it was. But it also meant that if reconciliation, because part of when you asked for forgiveness, you also indicated a desire to reconcile our friendship. So basically to recreate our friendship. But for me, it had to be clean. If it wasn't clean, it wasn't going to happen.
So I thought you were going to go there. So unpack that. Unpack that for the listeners. What is this clean thing? What is that? What does that mean?
So clean means that I'm a female and you're a male, and we are rebuilding a friendship of love, of deep love, not what others may consider to be, based in carnality. That's not what we're talking about, but a deep, genuine love for each other. I understand that significant others sometimes won't understand that kind of friendship between a man and a woman. And so for me, if there was a person in your life, then me coming back on the scene could not be something that created an issue between you and that individual. That's what I mean by clean, because I was not about to be weaponized. I was not about to be seen as, perceived as something that would create toxicity and acidity in any relationship that you might have. So essentially, it could not, this recreation, rejuvenation, healing, redemption, rediscovery of this friendship and recovering this friendship could not be a gift that was too expensive for you to accept.
So, so I guess for our listeners, it's important to understand in the reconciliation journey that two people take a really long, hard look at where they are and how things have changed for them individually as well. You can't go
Absolutely.
back. You can't just go back to what was. You got to recreate,
Mm-hmm.
and doing so based on who you are now,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There's another thing about that clean that I thought about that I thought you were going to
Mm-hmm.
mention, and
Okay.
maybe you would.
All right.
I remember when we spoke and we started to have hard conversations about
Uh-huh.
recreating. You
I know
said,
exactly where you're going.
okay, you said,
Well,
okay, if we're doing this,
I did, didn't I?
yeah. So
Sure did, did I
to
not?
tell
But
tell
go
our
ahead.
listeners what is this?
Well, no.
I guess
What?
I well, I was going to sneak in another question, but maybe it's unfair to do that.
Well, no, no, no. Go ahead and
So
tell the
the so the
listeners what you heard me say. Uh-huh.
you said if we're I'm trying to remember exactly how you worded it. It was just in my head and I lost it because I've repeated it so many times. But if we're doing this, we're doing it.
Yeah.
How would you say it again? There's a way you said it. I'm trying to remember. Is that it? Is that exactly how it was?
I,
But
I think my wording was this has to be if we're doing this, we're going to do this clean or not at all.
right, and it meant discussing everything that needs to be
Everything.
discussed.
Exactly. And I remember one of the things I said to you, I don't know if I'd call it a stipulation as or if it was a request. And that is that you don't lie to me. I remember saying that because my thing was I felt, look, we had spent so many years swimming in the sea of silence. If we're going to land, if we're going to come ashore now, let's let's not be in that sea of I think where I was going with that is that let's not waste time with dishonesty. We had lost so many years of friendship. Let's not waste the time now. If we're going to do this, let's do this right. Let's do this clean, or let's not waste each other's time. So I think that's where I was going with that. But you were trying to sneak in a question, but I need to just sneak in a question where you're concerned as well.
Sure.
And that is, what did forgiveness mean to you in this context?
Well, before I get to that, let me just say on that last point you made. That's powerful. I was reminded today that the enemy is the accuser.
Hmm.
He's the accuser. He's the author of lies. And the thing is, we attach our identity to lies
That part,
too many times.
that part.
And so if we're not being honest, if we're not building on truth, then you're building on things that will destroy you. It's like placing mines in your life. You will never know when you'll step on it and it will destroy you.
Mm,
So it has to be built on truth, and truth meaning sincerity. You've got to
yes, authenticity.
be authenticity. You've got to
Hmm.
show up in a way that allows somebody to know you. If
Right,
I get to know you, then I can trust you. If I can trust
right,
you, I can then rely on you. If I could
right.
rely on you, then I could commit to things. And
Hmm.
if I could commit to things, then we can experience intimacy,
Hmm.
into me, seeing into that person, that trust.
Right.
I was just thinking about that as you were talking. And so yeah, so we had some tough conversations where
Yes,
we
we
had to
did.
you asked some really tough questions, man. Oh, you asked me some really tough questions and I had to show up and answer. But you know what? The beautiful thing about that journey, being in a place of honesty allowed me to recall past experiences
Mm,
that made it easy because I was, well, easier. Let me use that. Let me just say easy. Easier because
Mm-hmm.
I started to, as I tried to answer some of the tough questions, I
Mm-hmm.
was able to recall who I was talking to.
Wow. Mercy.
And it made it easier because I knew this is
Mm-hmm.
somebody that will hold what I'm saying in trust
Right.
and with respect and understanding and
Right.
tenderness. Because I had
Mm.
moments where I was. So your question to me was, what did
What did forgiveness mean to you then?
you know what forgiveness meant? Being pardoned, just
Mm.
getting a pardon.
Mm.
That's to just hear, you know what? I will pardon you from a debt you can never repay.
Mm.
Because I know that even if you tried to spend the rest of your life paying it, you can never erase the pain,
Mhm.
you know? So for me, that was seeking forgiveness was just, meant me praying and hoping that I'll have an opportunity to have you pardon me from a debt that
Mhm.
I just could not repay. Because the more I thought about it, the more I realized, no man, I don't have the money for this one.
Mm. Mm.
I don't have the
Mm.
financial, I don't have the emotional capital,
Hmm.
you know. So yeah, that's what it meant for me.
But
Uh,
there's something I'd like to interject here.
mhm.
I don't know if you remember this, but I do know one of the things that I asked you, one of the stipulations when you asked me for forgiveness. Do you remember what I asked you for?
No.
I said,
Okay.
listeners, this is what I deal
Yeah,
with,
but I
okay?
just remember sometimes it take a while.
The-
There's so many things to remember. Go ahead, go ahead.
But one of the things that I asked you was, since you were asking me for forgiveness, that I needed you to also forgive me.
Yeah, I think I
Do you
remember that.
remember me asking that?
And then I
And
asked for
for
what?
what?
Yeah,
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly. But I think too sometimes, even when we are in the right, okay, quotation marks there, I think we have to sometimes be honest with ourselves and sort of do a self check, right? Is there something that I did? How might I have contributed to where we are? And just in case, I needed to make sure that I was not walking around holier than thou when there was something that I may have needed to get your forgiveness for. So I think it was really important for me to ask that of you and to have you say, although you didn't think that there was anything I needed to be pardoned for, but that you would still pardon me anyway. And that was important for me as we journeyed.
So next question, which you probably hinted or even you know revealed. Was there a turning point in our conversation, or what was the turning point? What was the moment where you believed reconciliation could truly be possible? Was there such a moment where in our in that period that you felt, you know what? Yeah, yeah, I
Well,
can.
I think honestly, your first overture, that first reaching out for me, I felt, this might be more than just forgiveness. This could actually be the recreation of a friendship. But I think what perhaps solidified that for me was no matter what I asked you, you answered. And I got really personal with you.
Yep, you did. You did.
I got ridiculously personal with you.
Yeah, yeah.
And you answered. And I remember a couple of times, um, apologizing. And you said to me, you said, D, you can ask me anything. You gave me permission to get ultra personal with you. And I think that solidified for me even more that this truly can be an honest recreation and rejourneying and redemption and rediscovering and recovering of a friendship.
Do you have an opinion, experience, or reflection you'd like to share? Your say is your space to speak your truth. Send us a pre-recorded voice note for a chance to be featured on the podcast. Whether it's a personal story, a lesson you learned, an insight that needs to be heard, or your thoughts on the show itself, this is your opportunity to be part of the conversation. How to participate? Click on the Your Say tab at the top of the website. Record your voice note. Keep it concise and clear. Enter your details to complete your submission and tune in to the podcast. Your voice might be featured on an upcoming episode. Because your voice matters, this is Your Say.
You're listening to Wellbeing with CJ Harrell.
How has your view of friendship, trust, and restoration evolved, if at all, through this experience?
I think if I think of evolution, I think what it has done, I think this experience has called me to put into practice my philosophy of friendship. Friendship is not always a cruise. Sometimes it can be like, rolling down a hill backwards kind of thing, you know? Sometimes there are bumps in the road, sometimes there are ditches, there are bright moments, there are dark moments. But I think what this experience has taught me and helped me to evolve as I think about friendship, trust, and restoration is that it takes work, it takes intentionality, it takes consistency, it takes prioritization, it takes determination, and it takes it's about decision making. I can say that I'm your friend, but I have to live your friend. I can say that we have a friendship, but I've got to live the friendship. I've got to be the friendship. I can say that I trust you, but I have to embody trust. So I think it is a constant reminder for me that what I expect in a friendship, what I expect in trust, what I expect in restoration, I must authentically and intentionally exude. Otherwise, it's not true. It's not authentic. It's not real. And it really is not worth the time investment. So I think that, and it's not something you can, I don't believe that true friendship is something you take a vacation from. I think it's like a life partnership. So it's either we're journeying together until our journey ends, whatever that means, or we're not doing this at all. It's not I'm in your life one moment and then I'm not in your life the next moment. It is we're journeying together. We're journeying through the laughter, the tears, the silence, the pain, the happiness, the uncertainty. It's a journey, and it's a decision that we're taking that journey together. So I don't know that it evolved per se, my views of friendship, trust, and restoration. I don't know if I would say it evolved as it became clearer.
Maybe tested in some ways.
And tried in the fire in some ways, right? But it is not, and I don't think that either of these items that you've asked me, friendship, trust, restoration, these are not things to be trifled with. Because there's a currency of self-investment in that. And when people invest in that, I think we ought to honor that investment and respect that investment, that either we're going to be co-investors or we're not going to sign that check at all. Because there's too much to be lost if we're not, perceiving it and understanding it that way. And I know that this may sound, all theoretical and philosophical, but I think it is something that can be lived, but it takes time and it takes, for example, you and I, we talk often. Um, we voice note each other almost every day, sometimes more than one time a day. That's practical investment. That's me saying to you and you saying to me that want to dedicate some time from my day to let you know that you're on my heart, or that I'm thinking about you, or I just want to give you something to laugh at for a moment. It is that consistent, deliberate, intentional placing people in a forum of importance in your life. And so I think that this experience said to me and I think what it said to me as well, I don't know if my ideas evolved, but I think what hit home was the courage it took for you to reach out. And I was deeply humbled by that. And so I think that also repositioned, if you will, my view of friendship. Because you didn't have to do that. And I've told you many times that I would not have reached out. I would not have. But I am incredibly humbled that you took the time to search me out, to find me. Because what it told me was there was still value in this friendship. There was still, all was not lost, despite the silence.
Thank you, Dee. In what ways do you think we've both grown as individuals and as friends since
Oh, wow.
reconciling?
Well, I tell you what, before I answer that question, why don't you tell me, what about you? Tell me about your view of friendship, trust, restoration. Did you experience an evolution of any of these concepts or experiences?
Yeah, for me, I think there's so much I could say. Well, first of all, let me start with saying that some of these things I touch on in my book,
Mm-hmm.
7 Things I Learned Having Gone Through Separation and Divorce, which you so graciously edited for me, Dee. Thank you very much.
Aw, my
It's
pleasure.
one of the first things that we worked on.
On together, yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
so you were my editor, and I so appreciate that. And we have some other things that we're working on. So I look forward to revealing that to the listeners.
Absolutely.
But if go onto my website, guys, download that book. It helps answer some of those. That question, some of the areas. I think what comes to my mind, I'm not omnipresent.
Mm. Okay, so unpack that.
I don't know. I don't know if this happens to other people, but I know for me, as I've grown older, I've come to realize that this childlike view, and I'm not saying that if somebody has this, they're being childish or childlike, but when we growing up, you have so many best friends. This is my best friend, and this is my best friend, and this is my best friend, and this is my kids, I laugh. They're so sweet. Everybody, they're so open and welcoming, and
Mm-hmm.
and truth be told, I think everyone is a friend, or should be a friend, even if they're not a friend to us. A friend meaning
Right.
that no matter how difficult somebody might be,
Mm-hmm.
we must not let their challenges redefine how we would relate to them. We should still relate to them in love and with integrity and all of that. That doesn't mean that you're going to be buddies. That's not
Right.
what I'm talking about. But what I am talking about is that what I've really begun to understand, and you hinted on it a bit, is that I can't invest in many people
Mm.
as much as I may want to invest in a lot of people. And I'm not saying that I have a lot of people, I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying that relationships take time and energy and
Yep.
effort, no matter what
Mm-hmm.
it is. You know, family members, colleagues, wife, husband, daughter, son, whatever the relationship, it takes time. And if we want to have meaningful, rich relationships, chances are it's going to demand more time.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to be very sincere in how we invest our time. And so I have come to really value time. And I have a deeper, richer understanding of the importance of making quality
Time.
time
There you go. There
for
you go.
people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the other thing that you touched on as well, I cannot require of anyone what I am not myself. If I am not already this, I can't demand that of you.
Right. Right.
I should be what I demand. Well, I'm
Mm.
using the word demand loosely, not that I'm going
Right.
there.
Understood.
But the thing,
Understood.
we tend to sometimes think about, well, I need this and I need that, and I want this person to treat me this way and treat me that way. Well, have you invested enough time and attention to yourself to make sure that you can be what you expect others to be to you?
Mhm.
And so that's another thing that I think that got tested, I should say,
Mm-hmm.
and really helped me treasure more and understand more.
Right.
And I think the other is the beauty of we touched on it earlier, honesty.
Mm-hmm.
Being honest, just being honest, and the blessing of being able to be honest
Right.
with somebody. Sometimes people don't give us space. They don't really
Mm-hmm.
want to
Mm-hmm.
hear us, to hear our heart. Not everyone wants to give you space, and that's difficult sometimes. I mean,
Yeah.
we're not dealing with that today, but maybe sometime we could talk about that. When you're trying to be, you're trying to have a certain type of relationship with somebody in terms of quality, and they're not. It's not bilateral.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
not something that they're interested in. How do you deal with that?
Right.
You
Mm.
know.
Yeah, that definitely is that's worthy of conversation. Um, but I guess that you have another question for me, sir. So what is your next
Yeah, the,
question?
the the final question in this particular segment: what
Uh-huh.
boundaries or habits have helped us protect this renewed relationship? And I ask this really for the benefit well, all the questions are for the benefit of the listeners, but you
Mm-hmm.
know, should people do things to preserve, boundaries and habits to help protect, to help?
Yeah. The word habit is really interesting for me, but I think I see where you're going with habit. Um, one of the things I know that I've done is it is clear in my mind that I have zero intention of losing this friendship again.
Hmm.
So that is a boundary that I have created mentally.
Mm-hmm.
So it means then um, that I am protecting this friendship at all cost. It also means that, earlier on you asked about trust. It means also that if you share something with me, and I did this before, prior to our years of silence, or sea of silence, if you will, or season of silence, um, being careful with your heart is important for me. So that when you sit and you share something in your most vulnerable moment, I am making sure that I am creating a safe boundary for you. So I have marked off a space in that moment in time where we're talking, where judgment does not exist, where judgment is not allowed to be in there. So that's my protective boundary. Those around me who know of me and know of you are aware of who you are in my life and the place that you hold in my life. So that is something that that's another boundary that I have set. So another boundary that I have set also is, in addition to no judgment, is safeguarding your vulnerability. And here's what I mean by that. If you tell me something in confidence, and again, I did this before, but it is even deeper now. I am not going to share that. You and I have joked about this, right? And I've said, if so and so comes to me and says, "Oh, you know, so did you know CJ walked on the moon?" Right? My response would be, "Oh, or did CJ tell you that he walked on the moon?" My response would be, "Was he supposed to tell me he walked on the moon?" Again, because it is important for me to value the confidentiality that you are placing, you have allowed me such access to you, such access to your life, to your experiences, that it is important for me to guard that. So those are the mental boundaries that I have set. I don't repeat things. If you share anything with me in a moment where you're vulnerable and you've done that with me, it is a place where you know that protection and non-judgment is continual. It is like present continuous, right? It's not past tense. It's not I safeguarded you. It is you continue to be safe with me, if that makes any sense to you at all.
Well,
So that to me is the boundary and the habit. I think also maintaining a clear line of communication. I think that's something that we've been doing quite well, but also giving each other space, that if there is a moment where you don't immediately respond to a text or a voice note that I send, or I don't immediately send to a voice note or text that you send, there is no assumption about what's going on. So giving each other permission to take moments of silence when we need it, without making an assumption about what that is.
yeah. Well, I hope, you hope that makes sense to me, but I hope that really does make sense to the listeners, which we have to unpack some of these principles, I think, some more in another podcast. But one of the things I thought about is again going back to this honesty.
Yeah.
Honesty. You know, there are times when we think things or we experience things, and they should be unpacked. They
Mm-hmm.
should be talked through,
Right.
lest they become these monsters in our minds.
Mercy.
you know and the more we keep them in our mind is the more they grow into these monsters. So I think when I think about boundaries and habits, it's a good habit to talk, even though it's difficult. You have to talk things through. If you can't talk
Mhm.
things through, then you're not, why then do this,
Yeah.
you know
Yeah. And we've asked each other about this friendship, you know, we've looked at parameters and I think we've been quite honest in identifying what those parameters are. But I have a question for you because I don't think we discussed this. And if we did, pardon me, we've been talking about so many wonderful things so far. But one of the things that I wanted to ask you is in terms of share with me how you think maybe you've grown or I've grown as an individual and as friends since we reconnected and reconciled. What would you say to that?
I'll probably have to put some more thought into if I've seen some growth in you. I think, yeah, I'll have to put some more thought into that. I know for me, I've been through so much, D, in the
Yeah,
past few years, man.
yeah.
I think that I am growing more and more, learning how to trust people again,
Mm,
you know. And I say again in the sense that, I've been through so many, interesting things, like many people listening, people, man, people as be people
yeah.
in, and life is be life in. We
Mm,
go through stuff. We go through stuff, and trust is broken, and sometimes we go through things in so many different spaces.
right.
You might go through it, okay, in your home space, and then you go through some violations of trust in the workspace, and then in the
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
school space, and then in the
Right.
church space, and then in the
Mercy.
in the gym space or whatever space, until you begin to realize, wait, I can't trust anybody.
Right.
And that's not necessarily true, right? And so I think I'm learning how to accept people. Oprah, I think, is the one who says, when, or what is it, Maya Angelou? I
Maya
think it was
Angelou.
Maya Angelou.
Hmm.
When somebody shows you who they are the first time, believe them. So I think
Hmm.
I'm learning how to, when somebody shows me that they're not where I am, or they're not interested in an honest, exchange. I'm not saying we need to be buddy buddies. I'm just talking about in terms of life, that we
Hmm.
give people permission to be where they are. That's not
Hmm.
that's not a personal indictment against me. That's their journey. And if that's
Right.
where they are, I let them be where they are. And so I think I've learned to really accept where people are, and understand that does not mean that it ought to interfere or redefine where I am.
Right.
And of course, I guess the segue is that I've also learned that, experientially learning, that having genuine friendship is possible. It's possible. And I
Yeah.
thank God for the few people in my life. I have a few very precious people that I've been able to have some deeply meaningful relationships with, and it's a good thing to know that that actually is possible.
Hmm.
It's possible,
Hmm.
as you say, where people give you room to be you without judgment, so that you can grow, because we're all on a journey. And what
This
we're
is it.
and what we're really wanting is to have a community that allows us to grow without judgment, but
Hmm.
instead encouragement.
Yes. Yes.
And I think that's the biggest thing that I've
Yeah.
been, gifted with the friendships I've had, and our friendship. I get to grow without judgment,
Hmm.
but instead grow with encouragement. And when there
Right.
is time for hard discussions, the or hard or difficult things to be said, they're showered with such love and gentleness.
Hmm.
That for a fact that this person is saying what they're saying because they genuinely care, and they see you without judgment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
We're going to be back. for our final segment. Before I fire off some what I call my general podcast questions. I have some general questions that I want to throw at you, Dee. Some rapid
Alrighty,
questions.
bring it on, bring it on.
So, but we're gonna come back and look at vulnerability and hope.
Thank you for listening to this edition of Wellbeing with CJ Harrell. If you enjoyed the show, remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and visit us at cjharrell.com. We're better with you.